this video, I'm going to talk about buffers in QGIS. Buffers are some circles around the features that we want to create a buffer from. In this example, I'm going in the parks and open spaces, and I projected that layer. If we go to the properties of this layer source, you can see that it is N8083 UTM zone 18. And we know that the linear unit of this layer is meters. Unit is important for creating a buffer, as I'm going to explain it why. So what we need to do is go into the processing and to the processing table and going to I'm saying looking for buffer, and here we have a simple buffer tool. I'm going to use this tool. Now we can say which input layer we are going to use. That's our input layer. Distance, we are going to say, okay, we are going to create the distance of 1,000 feet from the parks, and here we have the segments parameter. If you want to know what the segment parameter is, you can read this part. Again, we have end cap style. Round is a good style. Join style. Again, I'm going with round. These are some very interesting parameters, but you can read about them here. I'm going to leave them as default. One important parameter here is dissolve them, because if we don't dissolve them, then we will have independent circles that they're going to overlap. I want those circles to be dissolved and create one shape. So I'm going to dissolve my results, and then here I think that is, let's come back here, that is the layer, the output layer. Always create the output layer, go save to file, and here I'm going to saying that I'm going to create this here, that I generated one already. I'm going to say this is my version 2 and save, and that's it. Let's run that. Now this is the result. I forgot to mention something before running it, and that was this could be fairly heavy for your laptop if you are running this on a relatively old laptop. So if you're listening still before running, one thing we can do is we can eliminate the small parts and run this tool only on larger parks. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say filter this layer based on the area of the parks and select all those parks that are greater than 2 acres. And so we're going to see that most of them are gone now. Maybe even how about if we say 2.5, eliminating more of those. So these are, we can say maybe they are major parks. I'm going to eliminate this layer, remove that, and bringing my tool again, and we have to set all of those things. So 1,000 feet, dissolve them, location, save to file. Here, let's see if it overwrites. Yes, and run. Okay, this was much faster. And now I have my layer. I'm going to give it a little bit of nicer color in terms of maybe more bluish. And you can see that you have these rings. And here you can see the multiple rings are dissolved. If I had not chosen the dissolve option, then these would be overlapping rings. So we would have some overlaps here. But this is much nicer to have just one um, feature. and let me select one of these. Now you will see another issue here. When I select one of these, all of them are selected, and that's because they are, when we dissolve, that happens. We call these multi-part features, those features that have multiple parts. So this is a giant single feature. If I open the attribute table of this layer, you're going to see only one row exists here, and that's because this is a giant feature that has multiple parts. That you can solve it if you go to the processing window and say multi-part um, to single part, multi-part to single part. This is a simple tool, gets the input, writes it into a new layer. So you have to set an output here, and then that layer will only will generate the layer that these buffers gonna be independent, gonna be individually independent and not. Let's do it. I'm going to show you how that gonna look like. Save to file quickly. This is singles. Okay, now I'm going to turn this one off. See if I select that one, only that one is selected. The same here. So we call these um, single parted, and you can see that we have all these different rows because each of those now are is one row. So that was a simple buffer. You can still have multiple buffers. So multiple buffer is more interesting. I'm going to bring multi-ring buffer, and this one will create multiple rings around one based on distances. So you can say a number of rings that I want is 3, and the distances I want to break down is 1000 feet, and then again you will give an option here, multiple rings, and that will generate multiple. If you have a selected feature, for example selected park, you can check that box and say, oh, run this only on selected features. Anything else? That's it. Let's run this one. Here you have those. We didn't have the dissolve option, unfortunately, so now you can see that those are overlapping features, and I don't really like it, but that's you know, we have solutions for that, but at this point just know that they are not dissolved. But if you don't like this, there is another option here. In plugins, you can go to manage and install plugins, and here we can actually find some interesting tools that other people have written. Um, and let's say multi-buffer. Let's just search buffer, see what we can find. Multi-ring buffer. Let's install that. So the plugin is installed and that icon is showed up here. Close. I'm going to open that icon, and then I'm going to say dissolve features before buffering. So that's good. So we have the dissolve option, and then I'm going to say rings. Here buffer distances. We say 4 um, buffer distance. I think that's just maybe if we want to have equally sized rings, or we can say actually the specific distances. Um, Here, um, the unit of this map is meters. So here you don't have the option to choose the unit. That's the, maybe you have to be careful about that. Because it is meters, I'm going with numbers like 200, comma 400, comma 600. So 200 meters um, is around 600 feet. Yeah, almost. So you can basically multiply by 3. Every meter is about 3 feet. Then segments is fine, and We want central. Yeah, that's all good. So although we want our input is the parks. Okay, so rings gonna be constant distances, so you can just say separate those rings by 20 meters, 100 meters. But here you have more. So for example, I could say 800 meter to have a slightly larger ring outside. Um, let's run this tool. This is one of the advantages of QGIS, that you can use um, basically tools that other people developed, and I could actually add more functionalities. It took a long time for me, maybe about a minute, so be careful. Maybe you need to filter more um, parks to make it easier. But now that I have my uh, buffers, I'm going to use symbology, and I'm going to say use categorize, and use the values, the distance, and classify. So we have 200, 400, and 800. I don't want all of the values. And then okay, um, here it is. So you have your buffers here. Of course, you need to change the colors, but um, you have multi-ring buffer. It is not super efficient in terms of computation. Use it for smaller data sets, or be patient until your computer is running it. But this also generates some cool results for you, and you can visualize this. Um,